The movie begins in the year 1184, where in the midst of a deadly winter, a priest along with two men are seen digging a grave to bury a woman who had committed suicide. That woman was the wife of a blacksmith, who is also the priest's brother. Before burying her, the priest removes a cross from her neck. Just then, some Crusaders pass by, and once they leave, the priest orders the men to cut off her head before burying her. This is because in Catholicism, suicide is considered a grave sin, and such a person cannot be given a proper burial unless their head is severed. In the next scene, we see Balian, who is grieving the death of his wife and child. The woman being buried earlier was actually Balian's wife, burns the memories of his family, and resumes his work as a blacksmith. Soon after, Godfrey, along with some soldiers, visits Balian. Godfrey is Balian's father, and he apologizes to him, inviting him to come to Jerusalem, where he has wealth and power. Godfrey is a knight and wants Balian to be his successor. However, Balian refuses. Before leaving, Godfrey tells Balian that finding Jerusalem isn't difficult. Go where people speak Italian, and continue until the language changes. That's the road to Messina, and from there to Jerusalem. We then see Balian's half-brother, the priest, who overhears the conversation. He encourages Balian to leave the village, though his real motive is to take over Balian's property. Still devastated by his loss, Balian is told by his brother that his wife's head was cut off before burial. Enraged, Balian kills his brother with a burning sword and takes back the cross from his wife's body. He then decides to follow Godfrey, whom he meets on the road. Balian confesses that he's committed a sin and wants to go to Jerusalem to seek redemption. Godfrey agrees to take him along. During a rest stop, Godfrey begins training Balian in swordsmanship. Suddenly, Godfrey's nephew appears, demanding Balian be arrested for the murder of the priest. Godfrey refuses and warns that if they try to arrest Balian, they'll have to fight. A battle ensues, and though Godfrey's nephew kills several men, he is ultimately slain by Godfrey. However, Godfrey is gravely wounded in the fight. They continue their journey to Jerusalem for Godfrey's treatment. Along the way, near Messina, they reach a traveler's camp, where they meet a man named Guy, the husband of Princess Sibylla. Guy speaks disrespectfully to Godfrey and inquires about Balian. Godfrey replies that Balian is his son. By the time they reach Messina, Godfrey's condition has worsened. On his deathbed, he tells Balian that peace exists between Christians and Muslims in Jerusalem, and the city's gates are open to all Christian, Jew, or Muslim. He says their king will need Balian, and when Balian asks why a man like him is needed, Godfrey says he'll see a beautiful world, a kingdom of heaven, and find purpose in Jerusalem. He urges Balian to maintain peace, noting that Muslim leader Saladin has honored the agreement so far. Calling Balian his last hope, he gives him his title, knighthood, and final blessings before dying. Honoring his father's wish, Balian departs for Jerusalem. During the journey, a massive storm destroys their ship, killing everyone on board except Balian and a horse. As he continues across the desert, two riders approach. One is a master and the other a slave. The master claims the horse belongs to him. When Balian refuses to give it up, the man attacks him, but Balian kills him in the fight. Needing a guide to reach Jerusalem, he spares the slave's life. Upon arrival, Balian gives the horse to the freed man and grants him his freedom. The former slave reveals that the man Balian killed was a known warrior and advises him to stay vigilant. As Balian moves forward, he's stopped by men loyal to his father, Godfrey. Recognizing the sword he carries, they question him. Satisfied with his answers, they accept him as their new baron and welcome him. Balian now receives everything his father promised: land, a large estate, 100 servants, and noble status. One day, Princess Sibylla visits his estate, but Balian offers her only water, telling her nothing about himself. Later, Balian meets Tiberius, a close friend of Godfrey. Tiberius asks Balian what he knows about Saladin. Balian admits he only knows Saladin is the leader of the Muslims. Tiberius explains that Saladin commands an army of over 200,000 in Damascus, and though conquering Jerusalem would be easy for him, a peace agreement exists between Saladin and their king. Despite the mutual hatred between the two rulers, the agreement has preserved peace. Balian then meets the king of Jerusalem, Baldwin, who greatly admired Godfrey and considered him a mentor. The king, suffering from a severe illness, believed by others to be divine punishment, engages Balian in a game and a series of questions. He grants Balian lands that serve as trade routes, giving him responsibility for their security. When Balian arrives at his new land, he finds it barren and worthless due to the lack of water. But rather than be disheartened, Balian digs a well, eventually finding water and transforming the dry land into fertile ground. Days later, Princess Sibylla passes through the area and stays with Balian, revealing that she's always liked him. She shares that her marriage was forced and that she has a son who will be the next king. She fears that if her brother dies, Jerusalem might fall. The peace they have is because of him, while others, she suggests, don't care about peace at all. ... Let me know when you're ready for part 2, and I'll continue in the same style. Here is the complete English rewrite of the next part of your detailed explanation. Written in one continuous paragraph without shortening any details. Most people were only hungry for power. A few days later, Guy and Reynold de Chatillon attacked a Muslim caravan, brutally massacring the people, an act that deeply enraged Saladin. In fact, this is exactly what they wanted to provoke war. The next day, the Crusader leaders discussed the situation. Only a handful opposed the idea of war, but it was now unavoidable. Guy incited his men, proclaiming that they were soldiers of God who could never be defeated, no matter how vast the opposing army. Unwillingly, King Baldwin also had to prepare for war. The very next day, Sultan Saladin began mobilizing his army. To attack Jerusalem, his first target was the fortress of Kerak. Balian received a message to reach Kerak and help defend it. Upon arrival, he saw people fleeing to the safety of the castle as Saladin's army had already arrived. Balian and his men chose to face the massive army in order to buy time for Baldwin to arrive with reinforcements. During the battle, Saladin's troops easily overpowered Balian's smaller force. One of Saladin's warriors echoed a familiar phrase to Balian. He told him that he should not linger here. This man was Ahmad, the same individual whose life Balian had once spared and to whom he had gifted a horse. Ahmad was actually a trusted commander of Saladin, and in return for the mercy shown to him, he spares Balian's life and tells him to return to the castle. Just as Saladin's army prepares to strike the fortress, a gleaming cross appears from the horizon. Baldwin and his troops have arrived. Before blood is spilled, the two kings meet for peace negotiations. Baldwin tells Saladin that if a truce is made, anyone who breaks it will be punished and no war or bloodshed will occur. Saladin, honoring Baldwin's integrity, grants another chance and retreats his army. Balian, furious at the events, returns to the fortress and publicly humiliates Reynaud de Chatillon, even striking him in front of everyone. But Reynaud remains unfazed by the shame. Baldwin's health continues to deteriorate. He is slowly dying. Princess Sibylla is present, and it becomes clear to her that Balian is a natural leader, much like his father. Since she already admired him, this only deepens her feelings. Though the war was temporarily avoided, Saladin's choice to avoid battle did not satisfy everyone. Some still desired Jerusalem, as it had been under Christian control for nearly 100 years. But Saladin was not a man who believed war was the only solution. He valued dialogue and understood the losses that come with conflict. Reynold had been imprisoned, but Guy was still free and saw an opportunity to claim the throne. Soon after, Baldwin died, and Sibylla's young son was made king, even though he was just a child. Sibylla tried to follow her brother's path. She didn't want to lose Jerusalem. But after Baldwin's death, everything began to change. Balian no longer saw any purpose in staying. A few days later, Sibylla discovered that her son had developed a severe illness. He was unresponsive, and his health deteriorated. This illness was hereditary, the same that had afflicted Baldwin. Tragically, her son died soon after. With no heir left, Guy became the new king. His first act as ruler was to send soldiers to kill Balian, whom he deeply resented because of Balian's opposing views. Balian bravely fought off the soldiers and survived. As King Guy released Reynold de Chatillon from prison, and the two once again attacked a Muslim caravan. But this time, Saladin's sister was among the travelers, and they killed her. Enraged beyond measure, Saladin sent a message demanding justice. However, Reynold killed the messenger and declared war against Saladin. Since Guy had violated their peace agreement, Saladin now had every reason to go to war. Saladin's massive army began marching toward Jerusalem. Meanwhile, Reynold, without any strategic planning, led his army into the desert to confront Saladin. He ignored the warnings of the harsh journey ahead, intense heat, lack of water, and the long route. As expected, his army suffered heavily. Soldiers began dying from thirst and exhaustion. On the other hand, Saladin smartly took the water route, giving his army a clear advantage. When the battle began, Saladin's forces easily crushed the Crusaders. Guy and Reynold were captured alive. Saladin personally executed Reynold, but spared Guy's life, taking him as a prisoner. Balian and his allies had advised against the war, but Guy had arrogantly dismissed them, saying, "Why should I take advice from a mere blacksmith?" Now, when Tiberius and Balian arrived at the battlefield, all they found were corpses. Crusader army that once defended Jerusalem had been annihilated. With no king left and no army to protect it, Jerusalem was now vulnerable to Saladin's forces. Balian rallied the people of the city, inspiring them with a promise to fight until their last breath in defense of their home. His speech gave the citizens hope and determination to stand against the coming storm. Let me know when you're ready for the final part. I'll continue the rewrite in the same detailed and cinematic style. Here's the final part of your detailed movie explanation, fully rewritten in English. In a single continuous paragraph without shortening any details, everyone swears to fight until their last breath. What follows is a brutal and intense battle. Saladin's army is vast and powerful. Balian could have chosen to surrender, but he refuses, and instead decides to defend the city with all his might. In the first attack, Saladin's forces fail to capture the city. Then comes the second wave, this time with fireballs raining down upon Jerusalem, causing chaos and panic among the people. Heavy casualties occur on both sides, but there is still no decisive outcome. Eventually, Saladin offers Balian a chance to negotiate, and Balian agrees. During the meeting, Saladin promises that if Balian hands over the city peacefully, he will not harm the people. He assures Balian that he and the citizens of Jerusalem can return safely to France. Balian, thinking of his people, accepts the offer. He leads his people out of the city, choosing peace over destruction. In the next scene, we see Sibylla and Balian arriving in France, where they decide to live out the rest of their lives together in peace. From that point on, Balian never participates in another war. The film ends by telling us that after Jerusalem was lost, the Crusader kings continued fighting for 3 more years in an effort to retake the city, but they failed. In the end, they were forced to make peace with Saladin. And with that, the movie concludes. Which true story or film would you like to hear about next? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you'd like a title, SEO description, or hashtags for this video too.